Yo, what is up, y'all? Got another video for you today. This is the final video in like the kind of new split series that I've been doing the past couple weeks. So we've so far gone over a push day, a pull day. Today we got the leg day that I do in this new split. If you couldn't tell based off those days that are left, I've been running a push pull split now, push pull leg split now. However, I run it like a push day, then a legs day, then a pull day, and then a rest day. And I just do it that way to kind of like give my upper body a little bit more rest because, pushing muscles are typically more of your upper body, like your chest, triceps, shoulders. Pulling muscles, I do my back, biceps, and rear delts. So both upper body focused. And then legs is just legs, quads, hamstrings, calves, all of that fun stuff. So with all that said, we got a leg day today. So let's get right into it. Also, first off, before we get really into the training clips, um, I start my leg days with kind of just some light leg extensions or some leg curls or sometimes both, especially as the weather gets colder, especially if it's a little cold in my gym. Mainly just doing light sets, no actual working sets on there, but just get the blood flowing, get some blood in the legs, get the knees working, warm up the knees a little bit before I get into some heavier compound type movements. But I didn't film those, so we'll just be starting on my actual real working sets. But just wanted to preface on my leg days, I do like to do some sort of movements, usually like a machine, like a leg extension or leg curl, something to just kind of get the blood flowing, get the knees warmed up a little bit, just so everything feels good, everything feels warm. All right, but that said, the first movement that I do here on my leg day, and this leg day specifically, is I do 2 different leg days a week. Um, and they have minor variations, but the structure and kind of the methodology behind it is all pretty similar. But anyways, let's get into this first movement. This first movement that I'm doing here is, as you can see, a hack squat. And I like to start with a nice heavy compound, especially kind of quad focused because I want to get my quads to grow. So you want to start with what you want to grow the most. And then on leg days, I like to do kind of my heavier compounds before doing the auxiliary work, like a leg extension or a leg curl. So here with a hack squat, there's not a ton of cues necessarily that I have for it because it is kind of a very linear machine. You just get in it and kind of do your set, not like a normal squat where you have a lot to think about. But one thing I am thinking about is making sure I keep my butt and my back kind of back against that pad. I'm not letting my hips kind of curl upward. I want to keep the tension in my quads, so I keep everything back against the pad. And then I'm also really focusing on pushing my knees kind of out towards my toes. So I have my feet kind of angled a little bit just because that feels natural for me. So then as the knee comes over, if this is my toes right here and my knees right here, I want my knee to come out and over those toes. And I'm really focusing on doing that. And I'm not going to move my feet or let my heels come off the foot plate or anything to do that. But that's just something I'm keeping in my mind and then pushing through my quads to extend them and contract them rather than just trying to stand up and then kind of pushing through my knees. So I want to make sure I keep my knees over toes. Don't want to let my knees cave in. I want to keep them straight and out, and like I almost picture having a band on my knees. I'm trying to like push outward as I'm doing the movement too to keep my knees from kind of bowing in. Otherwise, I don't think there's much more to the hack squat that I can really discuss. There's not many other cues or tips that I keep in mind when doing my hack squat. It's kind of just making sure those knees go over toes, making sure they don't cave in, and keeping that back on the pad so that my hips aren't kind of moving upward or like tilting upward because that would put a little bit more emphasis on the glutes. I want to keep this emphasis on the quads of doing the hack squat specifically for my quads here. So I guess one other thing is I keep your feet as low as you can on the foot plate without having your heels come off the ground or off the plate. You want to be making sure you're pushing through your heels as you push up and contract those quads. So I keep them on the foot plate as low as I can without them coming up at the bottom of the range of motion. And then obviously get as deep as you can in the movement. Don't let your heels come up. Try to go past 90 degrees if you can. If you don't have the hip mobility or anything, that's fine. Get as deep as you can without actual like real pain other than, a burn in your quads. And as you keep kind of stretching more, you'll be able to get more depth. But that's it for hack squat. I do 2 top sets here and then usually a drop set. I did not film the drop set, but I would typically just do a drop set where I pull off a plate or something and then just burn out with as many reps as I can with one plate on the hack squat there. So next I go into another compound movement, but this is more for my what would that be called? My posterior chain, so kind of my hamstrings and my glutes. That's what this is really focusing in. This is going to be an RDL. I could do an SDL, stiff legged deadlift, but I don't like starting from the ground on these. I like to actually start from the rack, like upright position rather than the bent over position. So that's why I opt for RDLs personally. With these, the biggest thing you want to focus on is obviously keeping that back straight. You don't want to let your back arch when you're doing your deadlifts of any variation, but keep the back straight, core tight, keep a chest kind of up. And that's another thing you want to keep in mind as well on the hack squat. You want to keep your chest up, but on these RDLs, yeah, keeping my chest up, back straight, and then hinging at the hips, because this is a hip hinge movement. So hinge at the hips, don't be bending in your back. It's at your hips. And then I always think about like I'm sitting down into a chair. So as I go down, I think about it as like as if this chair here, I'm gonna sit down. I don't just like go like that. I kind of push my butt back and go into it. So like that's the same movement as the RDL. Push those hips back and bend at the hips, and then push those glutes back towards the wall behind you as if you're trying to touch the wall behind you with your glutes. Those are kind of the cues that I keep in mind. And then the only other thing that I think about is as I'm coming up on the movement. So when I'm trying to, pull through the hamstrings and the glutes, as you bring the weight back up, really squeeze the glutes at the top. And I've noticed when I really squeeze the glutes at the top of this movement, it helps mitigate any lower back pain that I used to get when doing this movement. So don't forget about the glutes in this movement. I do this specifically for the stretch in the hamstrings, but when you get to that top, really squeeze those glutes at the top and it'll make sure you're kind of not getting any lower back pain or lower back discomfort. But again, with these, I do 2 top sets, 1 drop set. I got the drop set here. I just pull off the 25 and the 10 and go back down to a 225 instead of about 295. So 2 top sets, shooting for anywhere from 6 to 12 reps on these. Usually it's between the 8 to 10 range though. And then the drop set, just as many as I really can do without, passing out or anything like that, but just really doing as many as I can, go to failure on the drop set. Next, we go into my leg extension. Leg extensions, these are, I wish I had more cues for the leg extension, but it's a leg extension. Again, it's a pretty linear machine. There's not much going on here. What I do is I put the seat back to the second to furthest back position. So basically as far as I can and still sit in this machine reasonably and then grab those handles, pull yourself down into the machine, keep a nice big chest, kind of chest up, and then driving through the quads. Don't drive through your knees on this. Like don't make your knees feel like they're doing the pulling, which technically they are, but this should be your quads working in that that rectus femoris muscle on your quads. So really, when you're bringing the weight up, really focus on contracting the quads. I used to just kind of move the weight around. I'd notice I would get knee pain, but really contract the quads because that's what you want to hit with this. So do a weight that you can control and really contract the quads and get that, mind muscle connection, which I always kind of preach. I think mind muscle connection is pretty important if you're trying to grow a muscle. But otherwise, there's not much to these leg extensions. They're pretty simple. I feel like most people who've gone to the gym have done a leg extension at least once. So pretty simple movement. Again, I do 2 top sets, 1 drop set here. I do that with basically all my movements, especially in this bulk when I have more food so I can get away with it. Last thing here is leg curls. Going back to hamstrings. As you can tell, I alternate quads, hamstrings, quads, hamstrings. I just kind of alternate back and forth on my leg days, but here we are with the leg curls. Some people like to bend over the handles a little bit. It helps you get more of a stretch in the hamstrings, which I used to do, but now I like to just actually set the seat and everything and then brace against the handles, push my back up against the backrest of this machine, and it just helps me stay in a locked in position, which helps me kind of track and progressively overload because then I know every rep and set is as similar as I can, which then I know that when I'm progressing, it's not because I'm changing my form. I know it's because I'm actually progressing the movement. But after my hamstring curls, again, 2 top sets, 1 drop set, then I go into a superset of calves and abs. And here I just do 2 top sets, but I superset these. So I do some calf raises on the leg press, and I do them on the leg press mainly because then I can get a straight leg. You can do it on a hacksaw, you can do it on a Smith machine, you could do holding a dumbbell in your hand. If you have a calf press machine or a standing calf raise, that's great too, but I just like to do it with straight legs. I don't like doing calf raises on like one of those seated machines or anything where your knees are bent. I like to have straight knees when I do my calf work in general, but that's a personal preference. There might be some studies that I think say that having the straight legs um, helps grow your calves a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure on that. I haven't looked into that too much myself, but I just, personal preference, I prefer to keep a straight leg when I do these. So then after those, I go into my ab work, which is simply just hanging leg raises, which again, it's a pretty common ab exercise, nothing crazy here. My biggest cue on this is make sure you're contracting through your abs. Like, don't just be swinging your legs around, because then your whole body's going to swing. It's going to be hard. And then also almost engage your lats like you're about to do a pull-up. It'll help keep your body straight. And then as you come up with your legs, so if this is my body, when I bring my legs up, I'm also about curling my chest down like I'm doing a crunch, which obviously I'm holding onto things so my chest is not going to move. But again, it helps stop you from swinging around, and that helps you really feel it in your abs. So if you struggle with keeping your body from swinging when you're doing these leg raises, just think about keeping that core tight, bringing your legs up by using your core muscles, and then engaging your lats and pushing your chest down as if you're doing a crunch as you bring your legs up. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, that's actually it for the workout. So this is probably a shorter video, honestly, but I figure there's not a ton to explain on my leg days. It's pretty simple. I mean, I just alternate quads and hamstrings / glutes, because let the quads rest a little bit when I'm doing my hamstrings, and vice versa, especially just because leg muscles they're pretty big. They're pretty big muscles, so they might need a little bit extra rest and recovery in between sets. But yeah, not a ton else. I wish I had more tips for you guys, but again, I do a lot of kind of standardized movements, like a lot of machines and stuff for my legs, just because I want to make sure I'm actually hitting the target muscle and I'm not just letting everything else take over. For example, I do a barbell squat every now and then, but as of right now, it's not in my program. I might move it back in a couple months or something. I might switch barbell squats back in, because I do think that they're a great exercise. But for me personally, it's hard for me to get activation in my quads. Even though I do high bar, I try to keep my chest up and all of that. Just like on my hack squats, it's just with a barbell, I notice my body will kind of bend over a little bit, and then I let my glutes engage a little bit and take over, which that's not what I'm using squats for. I don't want to use them for glutes. I want to use them for quads. So I took them out for a little bit, and then I'll come back to them, let my body reset. And I still love squats, but as of right now, I'm just not running them. And it is a little bit more technical. I don't really want to think too hard about it when I'm doing a leg workout right now. I want to just get into a machine and get it going. But I'm just kind of rambling at this point. So that's all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. The normal thing, if you like it, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you learned something. If not, hopefully you just enjoyed listening to me ramble about what I do for my workouts and kind of what's going through my mind as I'm doing this leg day. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. So thanks for catching another video, and I'll catch you all next Monday. Peace.